Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. I've got what could be my new EDC, assuming I was in kind of a Joker kind of mood, and had a holster that went all the way down to my knee. This is a Heritage Rough Rider. It's chambered in 22, so it wouldn't necessarily be a good EDC choice, but it has a 16-inch barrel. It's kind of a revolver that wants to pretend it'll be a rifle when it grows up, but it'll always be a pistol. The 16-inch barrel is the longest in the Rough Rider 22 series. This particular one is 22 only. There is a version of this that's the same basic design. There is a version of this that is convertible, so you can do 22 WMR with it. And the kits on these, from a price perspective, you can get them from $150 to $250. This one has an MSRP of $180, and the MSRP goes up to $233. So yeah, a few places are charging over MSRP for the different flavors. It has Cocobolo gunslinger style grips. They're real short and they're real small. You can also get these with a Joker, but it's cards, not the character, but playing cards, Joker playing cards, a Betsy Ross flag, or this Cocobolo grip. And the convertible one will come with 2 cylinders. There's also a variant of it that has an adjustable rear sight, whereas this one just has a gutter at the rear. And all versions of it have just a fixed black post at the front. And the sights on this are not optimal. It's, really shallow gutter, really small black dotted or post at the front. They're relatively hard to see, but then again, this isn't a serious combat gun. This is a cool, fun at the range day gun, possibly varminting, but even for varmints you might have a harder time seeing the varmint to line up on it. And also, at just shy of 3 pounds, at 45 ounces, there's a lot of weight and a lot of gun hanging out there in front of you with relatively small grips. If I pull it out, you're going for a mile to get to the end of this thing. And when you hold it, you've got relatively small grips. Now, there's no recoil in 22, even 22 Magnum, so there's no risk of this thing flying out of your hands or losing control. It does have a really nice spur on the hammer. It's a single action only gun. It's got a nice spur on the hammer to cock the hammer back. And I'm going to demonstrate the trigger when I put some snap caps in it, but the first thing I probably ought to do before I pull that trigger, which it's a little more cumbersome, you got to go to the half cock position to rotate the cylinder. It's a little more cumbersome to show clear, and of course we always clear every gun that we're going to handle before we start. The loading gate on this provides no additional safety. It's just an arm that opens and closes to cover the opening. It doesn't disengage the mechanism like some do, but this does have a unique feature, let's see if I can get it in focus here, of a thumb safety. So it was in the safe position, now it's in the fire position, and you operate it with your finger. This is the only revolver that I've seen with a safety. That doesn't mean there are no others with a safety, but it's the only one I've actually seen with a safety. It doesn't incorporate any other transfer bar or hammer block or any other safeties. This is it. So if the safety is in the safe position, flip it into the safe position and lower the hammer, you'll see that the hammer sits just a hair away. Turn it this way and you can see my hand through it. So it hits just a hair away from the firing pin. So in this position with the thumb safety on, it would be drop safe. If you dropped it on the hammer spur, it wouldn't be able to hit the firing pin. But I'm going to turn the safety off, and I'm going to drop the hammer. And now you'll see the hammer is up against the firing pin. There's no gap. So in this position, with the thumb safety off, it is not drop safe. But again, this isn't designed to be a carry gun. It's not the design intent of it. In that half cock position, you can rotate the cylinder, and you can also remove the cylinder, which is fairly easy to do. You push this button, pull this pin out of the way, open the loading gate, cylinder comes right out. You do have to make sure you get the pin all the way out. If the pin's part way in, it'll hang up. It's a well-machined cylinder. They haven't done any effort to hide any machining marks, but it's a well-done, well-machined cylinder. And if you've got the convertible version, you can pull this cylinder out and put another cylinder in relatively easily. And the cylinder goes back in just as easily. Now, it'll probably be a little more cumbersome for me doing it because I'm going to have it turned for the camera. But you drop it into position, put the pin back in, which you got to get it lined up. There. So I slid that pin back in all the way back, and it's not all the way back. Now it's all the way back. And now it's ready to operate again. So I'm going to demonstrate the trigger, because this actually has a very nice trigger, but it is a 22, so I'm going to load it with snap cap. And that's fairly easy to do. Go to that half cock position, open the loading gate, and drop a snap cap in. And these are just inert dummy rounds to protect the firing pin. So if I turn it a little bit so you can see the cylinder as I load it. If you spend a lot of time with these things, you can get good at loading them. They're not necessarily speed loading guns by any stretch of the imagination. They're a little bit cumbersome to load. So now I've got 6 snap caps in there, so I can pull the trigger without risking harming the gun. So I'm going to fully cock it, put my finger on the trigger, and it's a very short, crisp break. There is some over travel. Over travel is going to be unimportant in this because it is a single action. You have to let off the trigger and recock it completely to use it again. But the break is short and crisp, and it comes in around 3 3/4 pounds. So with the weight of the gun and the unwieldiness of it, you don't have the compounded action of the trigger being long and heavy, making it difficult to fire it. So I'll cock it again, and I'll show you that trigger one more time. That's it. That's the whole break. And again, it's fairly consistent around the 3 3/4 pound mark. It's a very nice, very smooth trigger. And with no recoil from 22, it's actually quite easy to do. Now if I wanted to put the safety on, I'd put it in the half cock position, flip the safety up, and then I could put the hammer down. I can also, I'm going to put the safety off, I'm going to drop the hammer. I can turn the safety on, and you'll see it push the hammer out of the way, but at this point I've got metal on metal contact. So it's a little bit better to pull the hammer just a hair away from the firing pin and engage the safety to avoid wear on the components. The machining on this it's good, but you can tell that it's a little bit rough. They haven't spent a lot of time polishing and trying to make this thing, an ultra fine revolver, but it's also not a $1,500 revolver, it's a $150 revolver. All of the parts that matter are well machined from a functional perspective. This thing has functioned perfectly at the range from day one, but not a whole lot of extra attention has gone into detail polish. However, I will say it is a nice looking gun. It's cool looking, and of course with that long monstrous barrel, it's just unique, it's interesting. It's just hard not to smile when you pick this thing up. Here you've got your well done, nice grips. They fit smooth and they fit properly. There's no overhangs to snag you. Everything here is all smoothed and rounded. And this screw that's sticking up is not a screw that's out of position. That's the release for the bolt that holds the pin that holds the cylinder in place. And of course it's spring loaded. So all the important stuff is done right. It's for $150 you're getting a really nice revolver with a lot of cool features and all the functionality you need. And one other important part, it's got a decent little crown if I can get it to focus. And for $150, Heritage can still do a crown. They haven't messed up the crown like unfortunately some of the more expensive revolvers we're having a little bit of trouble with recently. And I'll show you the other side of it. And of course it has the QR code if your military armory wants to keep track of their inventory of these things, for when you take them into battle, of course. It's kind of easy to make fun of this thing, and that's part of the fun of actually having it, is it can't even take itself seriously. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, all over the place. Thank you.